Welcome to DevOps stage. My name is Vlad Patenko. I am Customer Engineering Manager working with Google Cloud customers in Central and Eastern Europe. Today, I'd like to talk about open source solutions, role of Google in open source world, and how Google consume, and what is more important, contribute to open source to drive innovations in different areas, especially in Google Cloud. We embraced open source and continue to embrace it because it allows us to control our software destiny. With open source, we don't have to ask anyone's permissions to change our kernel or other software, and we can change things for our own specific requirements. For cloud, this means services that compete based on performance, not lock-in. And this is very important for us. Open source allows us to maintain our independence from external software companies. It gives us adaptability and flexibility to compete. This is the root of all of our open source activities. Let's briefly talk about history of open source at Google and how we leverage it to grow our business. This was our last traditional network. And as you can see, it was a long time ago. It was 20 years ago. And like so many companies, we started our open source journey as users first. And we used open source to build our own modern infrastructure. And I think we have quite a good results now. We wrote Python scripts on top of Linux. Then we expanded to writing data subsystem in C. It was NCC. We launched advertisement system in 2001 on MySQL. And the approach is very similar to what most of the companies are doing today, but using a bit more modern technologies. We started as a very small team. Our first contribution was to Linux kernel. And at the beginning, we were very careful how we used it. We spent some time to make sure that we were shipping in compliance. Usually, it's quite difficult when you're doing this first time. You have to be sure that everything will be accepted by the community. Then we started with language improvements, libraries for memory management, threading, Python tooling, core boot, and the show began. We were early supporters of projects beyond just code. We created programs like Google Summer of Code to support the open source projects that we rely on, giving them a pipeline of new contributors. This gives us deep connection directly with many of open source projects that we use in our solutions, and we rely on them. Plus, from early days, we have deep, long-standing partnership with the organizations that support many projects that we use in our systems. We support them by holding leadership positions as board members and through funding. We were the first company to help Linux Foundation exist and help create them from the ashes of Lee and OSDL. We've been Linux Foundation members since 2005, and we were the first board members of the Apache Software Foundation, starting in 2006. And we've participated in the Apache Foundation since the beginning. We were the first company to sponsor Apache. This year, we celebrated their 23rd birthday together. We learned that being on open source boards allow us to contribute resources where they are most needed, as well as participate in the direction setting of the projects. Today, Google is on our 20 open source boards, including newer ones like the Open Source Security Foundation. We started using open source to give an opinionated position on the direction that we think computer science needs to go, which we felt would benefit Google as well as the industry. And there are all examples that you see of when we did this. TensorFlow didn't have to be open sourced, but we felt that our approach should be an industry standard, so we decided to open source it finally. Chromium is another example. We felt that browsers could be so much more. So we created our own browser and open sourced it and created Chrome. Kubernetes was built by Google to manage our internal workloads. And we used it internally for quite some time. For 20 years already. But we realized that we created something that could really help Google Cloud customers and the industry. So we decided to share it. And we felt so strongly that Kubernetes was a strong enough solution to become a standard that we open sourced it to grow adoption. And as you know, it's very much an industry standard now. Majority of customers use Kubernetes. It can be a managed version of Kubernetes or open source version in their solutions. And today, Google continues to invest into open source projects. We are doing this even more than earlier. And we don't just say that we are industry leaders. The industry says too. The industry recognizes Google as an open source leader because of our deep commitment over the last 20 years. One of the last survey by the Linux Foundation To-Do group shows that Google was seen as a top open source citizen in the industry. It represents Google's deep commitment to using and contributing back to open source projects and helping the open source industry thrive. Google gained its expertise over 20 years by using open source in various ways to support its business goals. The impact of open source at Google is huge. Open source is foundational to our business, has transformed the industry, and changed the way how we collaborate with other companies. Think about solutions like Google Mail, Gmail, or managed version of it available to our customers as Google Workspace. Google Meet as part of this solution. Our expertise and industry leadership comes from all the ways we use open source at Google. We built our infrastructure with it. We created healthy competition in key markets with it, such as Android and Chrome. We created products with it, such as YouTube, Android, as well as our managed open source services like GKE and Dataflow. We even created groundbreaking projects that drive more innovation and become industry standards like Kubernetes, TensorFlow, and Go. Plus, we even shared our research outside of Google by open sourcing it. Here, you can see a list of products that uses open source technologies. You probably can recognize icons for very popular solutions like Gmail, Search, Maps, Chrome, as well as solutions like GKE, Cloud Run, Dataflow, and some others used by IT professionals to build their own systems. Here, you can see a timeline of Google's open source leadership, especially related to cloud native, starting with being an early adopter. Like many of our customers, we started by consuming open source. When Google was going through hypergrowth in the early 2000s, we needed our infrastructure to scale, and we needed to keep costs down. Plus, we didn't want to be limited or controlled by vendors. Using open source allows us to do this. And we started by building with Python on Linux. One of our first contributions to open source was the first patch to the Linux kernel in 2001, 21 years ago. By 2004, we created our own open source projects. Since then, Google has released hundreds of projects in total. Many times, these projects were created to address Google internal needs. Then, for various reasons, we opted to release these well-tested solutions so the industry can get value from them too. Several projects achieved mass adoption and become industry standards, like Chromium, Android, Go, Kubernetes, TensorFlow, and some other. On top of that, we've released many other popular projects within the cloud native and data space, such as Istio, Knative, Tekton, and Apache Beam. Today, Google is equally committed to contributing to projects created outside of Google. 75% of our contributions are for the projects not owned by Google, such as Apache Airflow and Apache Spark. Google's impressive contribution statistics demonstrates our leadership and commitments to open source. 10% of Alphabet employees contributed to open source. We created more than 2,000 of new public repositories on GitHub just for the last year, bringing our total active public repositories to over 9,000 on GitHub and over 1,500 on Git on Borg. Alphabet interacted with more than 90,000 repositories on GitHub, pushing commits and or opening pull requests on over 50,000 repositories. On GitHub, more than 75% of repositories with pull requests opened by Alphabet contributors were outside of Google managed organizations. And Google is #1 contributor to projects in the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, the foundation that oversees cloud native projects like Kubernetes. Google contributions make up 20% of all contributions. We've been the #1 contributor since its inception in 2015. Google has also donated more than 12 million in cloud credits since 2018 for CNCF projects. More than 1,200 Googlers contributed to CNCF projects over the last 5 years. This includes activity during work hours and personal time. And while Google continues to invest in projects that are core to our systems and products, we also allow and encourage employees to participate in open source projects on their own volition. Google holds the most leadership positions within the Kubernetes project, including serving on the steering committee. And you know that Kubernetes is open source project, but development runs on Google Cloud thanks to Google's donation. This allows open source community to use Google infrastructure and work on the Kubernetes. We are continuously investing into solutions around Kubernetes to innovate and improve the user experience. And those projects are open source based. We invested to Istio and manage microservices at scale. We invested to Keynote to develop a set of tools to manage applications on top of open source Kubernetes. And even more. We brought the power of them together in a technical solution called Antas to address our customer needs to manage their multi-cloud and hybrid architectures. The Antas platform allows you to run applications anywhere, simply, flexibly, and securely. Embracing open standards, Antas lets you run your applications unmodified on existing on-prem hardware or in the public cloud. Antas is a 100% software-based solution. You can quickly get up and running it on your existing hardware with no forced stack refresh. Antas leverages open APIs, giving you the freedom to modernize any place, anytime, and at your own pace. And because Antas is based on GKE, our managed Kubernetes service, you automatically get the latest feature updates and security patches. We also leveraged Istio, Knative, and some other solutions to give you scalability and manageability. So what is inside Antas? Antas is a platform that provides a consistent development and operations experience for cloud and on-premises environments. The primary computing environment for Anthos uses Anthos clusters, which extends GKE for use on Google Cloud, on-premises, or multi-cloud to manage Kubernetes deployments in the environments where you intend to deploy your applications. In simple words, Anthos cluster is a managed Kubernetes that can be deployed almost anywhere. The offerings bundle upstream Kubernetes releases and provide management capabilities for creating, scaling, and upgrading Kubernetes clusters. With Kubernetes installed and running, you have an access to a common orchestration layer that manages application deployment, configuration, upgrade, and scaling. And you can run your Kubernetes clusters on Google, AWS, Azure, or on-premise. They will be managed. You can also make a decision to use open source Kubernetes and connect it to Anthos, or deploy managed Kubernetes provided and supported by Google that we just discussed. Anthos will allow you to manage all your clusters from single place and implement multi-cloud environment. Now, let's talk a little bit about open source in Google Cloud and benefits that you can get from the platform. In Google Cloud, at the product level, you can reduce vendor lock-in by controlling your technology direction. Get optimized performance and controlled costs and risk of the projects that you use. You will have the portability and interoperability to build and run applications anywhere across multi-cloud and hybrid environments. You will be able to have faster innovations for developers. You will have data, operational, and software sovereignty to best manage regulatory and policy requirements. You will also have a great experience working with your preferred open source projects and tools. And they can be potentially, it's not necessary, but potentially managed by Google on Google Cloud. They can be managed by Google, or they can be managed by providers of those platforms, open source platforms. Google is a well-known company in big data area. For last 20 years, we invested a lot into data solutions and opened them to customers who can leverage Google innovations in their business. We started by releasing 3 influential papers in this area. It was Google File System in 2003, then MapReduce in 2004, and the Big Table in 2006. And once released, the industry was inspired and several open projects were created like Hadoop, Hive, and Spark. And Google didn't stop. We contributed to this wave by releasing projects like Kubernetes, TensorFlow, and Apache Beam. Those technologies were initially created for internal use to support our growth, but later shared to our customers as well. and you can use them for your innovations. Today, we have broad set of solutions that can be used to build comprehensive data analytics platform to cover the analytics value chain from ingest to process to store, and have advanced analytics and collaboration. And again, this platform is powered by open source. For example, data flow is managed at Apache Beam. Dataproc is managed Apache Hadoop and Apache Spark platforms. Cloud Composer is managed at Apache Airflow. Data Fusion is fully managed CDAP. This is an application platform for building and managing data applications in hybrid and multi-cloud environments. It allows you to build a pipeline to work with your data in Google Cloud and connect your on-prem applications or applications in other clouds if required. On top of that, you can use Cloud AI platform that leverage a few open source projects and can be used to build your AI ML story. And Bigquery. Bigquery is cornerstone of our data warehousing solutions. Bigquery provides you gigabyte to petabyte scale storage and SQL queries. It's encrypted, durable, and highly available. It's fully managed and serverless for maximum agility and scale. We also added built-in ML for out-of-the-box predictive insights. You shouldn't design your Python scripts or use any other technologies. You can use traditional SQL to build ML models and work with the data inside Bigquery without involving additional solutions. A lot of requests can use in-memory BI engine for faster reporting and analysis. And Bigquery is an externalized version of our internal Dremel technology, which heavily influenced both Apache Impala and Apache Drill. TensorFlow, HBase, Hadoop have all either come directly from Bigquery and the technology that was initially developed, or they were heavily influenced by Google. Google Bigquery is fully managed and serverless. The power of Bigquery comes from the architecture where storage and compute are decoupled, and we can scale independently on demand. This offers flexibility and cost control for you, as you don't need to keep your expensive compute resources up and running all the time. This is very different in comparison to the traditional node-based cloud data warehouse solutions or on-premise systems. With Bigquery, you don't pay for the compute resources when you don't process the data. You only pay for the data that you keep on storage. And it's very cheap. But when it's required, you can run thousands of workers to process your data and provide results in seconds or minutes, even if you work with petabyte-size tables. And again, it's fully managed. You don't need to spend your time on optimization. And by the way, with small amount of data, Bigquery can be used for free. For free. Together with another 23 products that have free tier for small usage. Some projects can be small projects for personal use. They can be developed and deployed on Google Cloud for free, totally for free. Today we will have one more sessions about Bigquery during this conference, and you will be able to get more insights about the technology. Data analytics is not only the direction that you can take with Google Cloud. You can build almost any solutions on GCP. We have hundreds of components that you can run on Google Cloud to build quite complex solutions to support your workloads. Some of them can be provided and managed by Google. Another can be third-party used from Google Marketplace. And majority of them can be open source. Here, you can see architecture for gaming company that can provide multiplayer game and support millions of users with right scaling. All requests from users come to Google Cloud Global Load Balancer that allows to serve in their countries with minimal latency. The front end for global load balancers is physically located on Google point of presences in those countries. We have many of them, and forwards data to your closest application instance. You can have single application cluster or a few of them serving different regions. Load balancer will find the best instance for the request to serve your users. Then you can run your game service on top of Kubernetes engine that allow you to scale your infrastructure when you need it. You have great flexibility with data management solutions and can choose Google Managed Cloud SQL that can build on top of MySQL and Postgres or other popular databases. Or you can deploy your own solution as a virtual machine. The bus. Here you can use Kafka or Google Pops Up. It's up to you. Kafka can be fully open source and free or managed solution from Confluence. All data coming from gaming servers can be immediately processed in Google Data Flow. Remember that it's Apache Beam. And send it for further processing to Dataproc or store it in Bigquery, where you can use the data for analytics. A few AI/ML frameworks can be used on top. One of them is AI platform that uses Jupyter notebooks to manage your ML scripts. In this example of gaming architecture, you can get following. Managed services in Google Cloud, if you like. Global scalability. HA everywhere. Efficient resource usage, like decoupling, scale to zero, specialized hardware for ML, and it will still run on open source. And what is even more important, you will run your infrastructure without vendor lock-in. Again, you will run on your infrastructure without vendor lock-in. Google wants to gain customers by offering strong partnerships and solutions. And we don't want to gain customers through vendor lock-in. Embracing open source provides this portability. By being at the forefront of open source and in very involved leadership roles, we bring the best of open source to our products and customers. We sit on many technical committees for projects like Kubernetes. This allows us to work with others to keep innovating the software and standards. Plus, we incorporate this new innovation quickly into our products so customers can benefit right away. And we believe that open source is the future of public cloud. It's the foundation of IT infrastructure worldwide. We've always seen our friends in the open source community as equal collaborators, not simply a resource to be mined. With that in mind, we are offering managed services operated by those partners that we are tightly integrated into Google Cloud Platform, providing a seamless user experience across management, billing, and support. This makes it easier for our customers to build on open source technologies. And it delivers on our commitment to continually support and grow these open source communities. With this approach, you get a solution directly from open source vendor, you have support from them, and you can consume latest capabilities from the products. We, Google, provide a platform where you can meet open source partner. And Google is a wonderful expression of open source that benefits our customers by offering an open cloud. Google knew that it needed to embrace open source to control its technical destiny, and we know our customers want that too. Customers want options to build, migrate, and deploy their applications across multiple environments, both in the cloud and on premises. Allow them to avoid vendor lock-in and innovate across environments faster. The open cloud gives you this choice and flexibility. Everything what we are doing in open source, we are sharing on set of resources. You can use open source live and YouTube Google open source for open source education. You can also check open source projects insights and contributions via blogs at opensourcegoogleblock.com and on Twitter. We invite you to check out these resources and join the Google open source community. And waiting on you on the Google Open Cloud. Thank you very much and see you on other sessions.